Hello, everyone. As they say, it is noon somewhere, noon where I'm at, and I hope that this day finds you in good spirits and in good health. Welcome, everybody. I believe this is going to be a good hour. We're going to learn some things. I'm going to teach you it's not a trick. It's learning to work within the 7 principles, of which we're going to continue on. We've got to get this understanding of what plane means, the plane of existence. Our goal is to ascend to a higher plane. Hello, 1111 Code. How are you? Merritt, Dave, Steve, Debbie, Michelle. How is everybody? Kyle. So, if you want to know a way to get every prayer, some can use the term wish. Some can, well, Chloe, thank you. It's very kind of you. Thank you very much. It always humbles me when people donate like that. Thank you. Very kind of you. So I'm going to show you how to get those wishes to come true. You can actually do it. There is a technique. Many people have used the technique. It's been around for a very long time. And, every now and then, an enlightened spirit comes along and realizes the principle in the law, and it's called magic. Now, other religions, they can use the term prayer request. It just goes on and on and on. I think that's one of the great things about the Hermetic principles that I have found particularly satisfying is that 23,000 days plus on this planet. And when you've been searching for a long time, it's like treasure hunters with the Akosha. How long did it take that guy to finally hit it? And so when you find what I find the most valuable treasure, that, as the sign for today says, beliefs transcend death. And if you meditate on that, you'll see what I mean. We set ourselves up so often when we transcend into the next life, because remember, your reality is predicated upon what your mind is projecting. Your spirit is eternal. Your soul, debatable. And the body, we already know what happens to that. Although there are ways that this body was originally designed to live for thousands of years. It has the most remarkable ability to regenerate itself. So anyway, leads me to the question to ask everyone is, what is your goal when you die? What is your lifelong goal that you want to achieve when death comes? It's different for all of us, I would imagine. Mine, in a simple word, well satisfied. I think if a person dies well satisfied, then this plane of existence has been worth everything. And again, we don't take anything material with us, but I'll guarantee you this, my friend, you're going to take your beliefs with you. And many times you're going to find out that those beliefs will create a reality that you don't want. And it may take you eons to get out of. There's a lot of truth to that. By the way, I'm going to catch up on some emails this afternoon. Kathleen, I got your email. So I've forgotten a couple of others. So just bear with me and I will get back to you. So I'm just kind of curious to see what is in the chat room. They're good. There's 112 of us. Wow. So what is your goal? Mine is to die well satisfied. Because I think if you are well satisfied, there's nothing else for life in this plane to offer to you. And I think it's so often one of the most elusive goals. It gets so complicated, doesn't it? It does. I mean, if you want to look at our species, look what happens in government. Who wants to grow up to become a bureaucrat? I never saw that in any aptitude test. It's like, okay, well, what's your life goal? Oh, I want to become a bureaucrat. I just want to simply, follow what someone else tells me to do and make someone else's life this miserable in everyone I encounter. I mean, is that insanity? Let's see. Gashra says, goal is to maintain consciousness past the release of the energetic body from the material body. Yeah. It's that $64 million question. How does your consciousness, your memories carry over? The Tibetan Book of the Dead says that those who die with their memories intact are somehow much more better off in the next plane. And it's a question I've debated. We've debated it on this channel. We've made videos of it. Is the soul defined by the memory? And if you start losing memory, which, dementia is creeping down into the age categories, Alzheimer's is, if anything, would be considered an epidemic because it's striking, again, younger and younger ages. When you start losing your ability for recall, and then this is where it really gets weird, is that you could be suffering from that, not even knowing it, dementia, early signs of dementia. And by the way, by the time it becomes so systemic that it's actually showing, remember, it's been there for years. And the goal is how do you begin to identify it? But here's the point. As you begin to lose the memories, you begin to enhance those memories that you have. And it becomes very difficult for the soul to distinguish. Give me 1 second here. Thank you. I have a fax machine that sometimes will set the unbalance off. But anyway, get back to the point. How do you know when you get to a certain point that those memories are real? The human brain has the most interesting ability. It can add to reality, your reality. And so if a person starts losing their memory, what carries over to the next plane? I don't know. Hi, Raven Wolf. How you doing? By the way, welcome to all the moderators and all the free thinkers. Thank you for stopping in. We cover a lot of things in here. So much of what seems to be so obvious is so elusive. I want to read something. We're going to get into Mr. Velikovsky's World in Collisions, but to show you the reality that we live in, this present day reality. And, since this book was written, we have made yet many other discoveries that actually this man adds to this man's whole point, his whole thesis. But check this out. It says, in an immense universe, a little globe revolves around a star. It is the third in a row, Mercury, Venus, Earth, of the planetary family. It is of a solid core, covered over most of its surface with liquid, and it has gaseous envelope. Living creatures fill the liquid. Other living creatures fly in the gas, and still others creep and walk upon the ground on the bottom of the gaseous ocean. Man, a being of erect stature, thinks himself the prince of creation. He felt like this long before he, by his own efforts, came to know how to fly on wings of metal around the globe. He felt godlike long before he could talk to his fellow man on the other side of the globe. Today, he can see the microcosm in a drop in the elements in the stars. He knows the laws governing the living cell with its chromosomes and the laws governing the macrocosm of the sun, moon, planet, and stars. He assumes that gravitation keeps the planetary system together, man and beast on the planet, the sea within its borders. For millions and millions of years, he maintains that the planets have rolled along on the same paths and their moons around them. And man, in these eons, has risen from a one-cell infusion all the way up the long ladder to his current status as Homo sapiens. Is man's knowledge now nearly complete? Are only a few more steps necessary to conquer the universe, to extract the energy of the atom? Since these pages were written, this has already been done. To cure cancer, to control genetics, to communicate with other planets and learn if they have living creatures too. Here begins Homo ignoramus. He does not know what life is or how it came to be, and whether it originated from inorganic matter. He does not know whether other planets of the sun or if other suns have life on them, and if they have, whether the forms of life there are like the ones around us, ourselves included. He does not know how this solar system came into being, although he has built up a few hypotheses about it. He knows only that the solar system was constructed billions of years ago, or so he thinks. He does not know what this mysterious force of gravity and how this gravitation is that holds him and his fellow man on the other side of the planet with their feet on the ground, although he regards the phenomenon itself as the law of laws. He does not know what the earth looks like 5 miles under his feet. He does not know how mountains came into being or existence, or what caused the emergence of the continents, although he builds hypotheses upon these as well. Nor does he know from where oil came. Again, strictly hypothesis. He does not know why, only a short time ago, a thick glacial sheet pressed upon most of Europe and North America, as he believes it did, nor how palm trees can grow above the Arctic Circle, nor how it came about that the same fauna fills the inner lakes of the old and new world. He does not know where the salt in the sea came from, and it goes on from there. And the point is, as we sit here and learn these Hermetic principles, we begin to understand that there are very few things in life that we can say are structured, that have the ability to give us that cosmic ability to say, I am. Kind of weird, isn't it? So, sounds too new for Velikovsky. Well, the great thing about it is that as you get to read, you always get the DNA of the person, not only reading, as we have found out, his words dance in our imagination, and thus they are as alive today as they were when the man wrote it. So yeah, definitely something to keep in thought. So speaking of thought, got some emails on the exercise yesterday to bring some more clarity. And by the way, that is from Franz Barden in his book, The Initiation into Hermetics. And it's a serious book. Not one that I recommend unless, again, you are a serious student, a serious initiate. And if that's your goal, this will completely revolutionize your life because he teaches. We're going to get back into the three initiates, and we're going to get into the planes. So we have that foundation, because unless you get these foundations set, reading a book like Franz, it would be the worst thing in the world to happen to you. It would not be good. You know, it's the same thing in studying the Bible. You know, when you first get into the church and you decide that, you know, you bought the story, the spell has been cast, and actually it's no different. You are an initiate. When you go down and make your confession, that is your first initiation. And then the initiate must do, in order to gain a grasp in his mind, her mind, of the religion itself, they must begin to study the book of spells. And that's called the Bible. And it is a spell because you get yourself immersed into a world that you know spiritually is wrong. It doesn't make sense. I mean, your first introduction is that you're introduced to an ambiguous thought. And that ambiguity starts right off from verse 1 and carries forth through the whole book. But that's the purpose. It's purposely left to be ambiguous. But as you continue the indoctrination, the initiation, you begin to buy in that the deity that you are now worshiping is the supreme deity. But when you look back on the history of the deity, it would never pass a background check. Thank you. It wouldn't, because you'll come to where I came to. We're all here, not by circumstance. There is a path that we're all on. That's why we're here. I mean, you can go other places and spend an hour, but here we're trying to at least come together, and we learn off of each iron. Iron sharpens iron, so we learn off of each other. And I came to the point where I couldn't figure out, well, who was this God? You got me believing the story. All right. So this cat that was murdered, a human sacrifice, was to please a deity that is said to have loved me, that only has love in its heart, but yet apparently if I don't comply, it's going to put me in a place for all eternity that I don't want to be. Okay. Well, now I'm still trying to figure out, so the cat that was murdered, human sacrifice, well, who's his daddy? You said that this guy that was on the earth wasn't his daddy, so who'd be his daddy? Well, if you take the story and you go backwards now, well, his daddy could only be Yahweh. And now you're going, well, but wait a minute, was God Jewish? Did he have a conversion? How could he be the Christian God and the Jewish God? And then it gets even weirder, because if you get back into Abraham, now you're dealing with the Abrahamic principle. And now you're asking yourself, well, wait a minute. There was someone else before he became Jewish? Apparently he was Samaritan. You don't know. You look at this and you go, well, this is nuts. And it is nuts, because what we find out is no matter what the belief system that's been organized, it's still predicated off the 7 principles. So we find ourselves right back to where we first entered in the door. And this is where we find ourselves now. We have discussed in this series what the soul is. We've discussed what the body is. We've discussed what the spirit is. We've discussed now that there are 7 principles that must be brought to your consciousness. If you don't abide in them, they're going to abide anyway. You're just going to pay the price of always bashing yourself, as Hermes said, against the rocks. And there's no need to do that. 1111 code, you're absolutely spot on. Hey, Zen, how you doing? Good to see you. So anyway, getting back to the meditation exercises. The goal for number 1 is this. The reason why you have to practice being the observer is to teach the discipline of taking control of your thoughts. And there are, I think, 6 other lessons, exercises that are going to be added to this. But I can give you a little hint along the way. The goal is for you as the observer to see and only see one thought. And that's hard. It's very hard, because our soul, the mind, for the vast majority of people, are not disciplined. Very few minds are disciplined. It's what's led to the chaos that we have in our societies, we have in our religions, we have in our politics, our governments, is that you have billions of people walking on this planet who are mentally undisciplined. And they don't understand the creative power that their individual thoughts have. And thus you have the manifestation. That's why you can have a particular political candidate. Most candidates don't understand what's happening. They're merely a pawn, but there is a magic spell that's cast. I'll be very candid with you. In 2008, I saw it take place here in Denver with the then Democratic candidate, Barack Obama. Saw the spell. If you saw and you go back and you look at that pageantry, that was Mount Olympus that they were duplicating, replicating on that event at Mile High Stadium. People didn't, and I'm sitting there telling people around me, you're not getting this? And when the spell started to be cast, you could see it literally go across that complete stadium. And subsequently, it was broadcast around the world as well. And we saw what happened. It's the same thing that when you begin to see a particular candidate that comes out of nowhere that suddenly begins to gain into a vein of thought. There's magic behind this. And regrettably, most people are so gullible that they will not become mentally masters of their minds. And that's just the way it is. But that's how it works, folks. And if it is your goal to become a master in the arts, then you'll begin to understand how they do this. So I told you that I would give to you, and I'll go ahead and give this to you. This is how you can make a wish come to pass. And you have to take this as a wise person. A wise person never jumps in. You know, it's the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you one bite at a time. You can't, if a man is dying of thirst, he will die of thirst if you bring him up to a fire hose. Won't do him any good. It's only when you understand it's mastering the small portions that it really does bring in the power. So I'm going to read to you exactly how you can make a wish come true. Now, let me just set this straight. First of all, you're going to have to go back to the first experiment, exercise. And let me tell you, the goal is to have the same concentration as you do achieving an orgasm. And if you stop and think about it, and I am assuming that everyone here is of age, that you know what an orgasm is. And whether it be male or female, in order to reach that point of ecstasy takes a great deal of energy, rhythm, vibration, and concentration. Concentration more than anything else. And that's the key. If you can duplicate that in your meditation and in your goal achievement time, this is how it will begin to work. So I'll tell you how I do it. I think of a word. What is one word that you need in your life right now? Is it health? Is it peace? Calmness? Tranquility? Is it contentment? Is it success? And when I say success, think about it. Success is very broad. Now, if you can put a mental image to the success, then that's a key. So here's what you do. You make yourself comfortable. I like to lay down on a sofa. You can lay down on a bed, or, if you find yourself in a comfortable chair, cool. Now relax your entire body. In fact, you just kind of sit there and breathe through your nose. Now, imagine that the air that you're taking in and the air that you're going to inhale is that one word you're looking for, that you're needing. If it's health, then focus on it. You're breathing in health. You're exhaling health. Now, don't try to take too big a bite, too big a gulp. Start with the small things. Learn to master those. If you never do, you'll never become a master of anything. You'll just become a jack of all trades. All right. Now, let it pass through your lungs. If it's health, as you see it getting into your lungs, now see it. I like to put a color to it. And let's say that we want to make this one a golden light. Feeling your lungs, that light, that golden light, and now your blood corpuscles are picking it up, and your blood is now transporting that same health all through your body. Now, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, whether it be peace, success, health, it must be imagined so intensely that the air that you inhale is impregnated with your wish to the point that it has already become a reality. And you cannot have the slightest doubt. If the doubt is arising in the exercise, then stop it. You need to go back to step one. And this is where most people fail. And it's what most other motivation and other gurus won't tell you. So if you've got the slightest doubt, then go back to square one. Learn to be the master of your thought. Now, for those of you who are pretty well advanced in meditation, this technique is going to become very easy. You may already be practicing it. So there is a breathing exercise. I like to do about 7 of them. That's what Franz recommends, that you begin with 7 breaths of air in the morning, 7 in the evening, in accordance with your own ability, and gradually increase the number of breaths, and do this in moderation. There's a lot of people that will teach on breathing exercises. This is not that. This is in order for you to begin to take focus. Now you keep on doing this, and you can do these breathing exercises. It's not recommended that you do them past 30 minutes. In fact, know your body. When someone says that, well, you should do 7, well, maybe, maybe not. I mean, if I'm on the path and I'm still participating, my body, my spirit, my soul's different than yours. So then, as you begin to continue to do this, you'll begin to get better at it. So there you go. Hope that helped. And, it works. It does. Well, thank you, Sean. I tell you, you folks, you're overwhelming me. Shawnee, Mommy, thank you. You're going to make me blush. And we don't want that happening. So this will work. I used these techniques decades ago. I just didn't know where they originated from. In fact, while I was a practicing Christian, and I prayed in the Holy Ghost, I prayed in tongues, and, that gets you into a very interesting place. But what it does do, it does get you into that singular focus. And again, this very technique is replete through every religion. Mark 11, 23, 24. It's exactly what it says. If you doubt not in your heart, but believe that those things from which you say shall come to pass, you shall have them. I mean, I could quote you a number of such similar verses as well. Hello, warrior princess. How you doing? So, all right. Got 30 minutes. Let's get into the plains. Anyone ever traveled across Kansas? How would you like to be in that plain? Holy crap. I mean, seriously, that would suck. But that's a great plain, the Great Plains is what they say. So we broke off where we were coming into the 3 planes of what existence is. And so in Hermetic philosophy, considers the universe may be divided into 3 great classes of phenomena, known as the 3 great planes, namely, 1, the great physical plane, and it's not plain, the great mental plane, the great spiritual plane. Pretty easy. The divisions are more or less artificial and arbitrary. For the truth is that all of the 3 divisions are but ascending degrees of the great scale of life, the lowest point of which is undifferentiated matter. Yeah, I always like to say that that's existing in the ether, but anyway, and the highest point of being spirit. And moreover, the different planes shade into each other. So it's no hard and fast division may be made between the higher phenomenon of the physical and the lower of the mental, or between the higher of the mental and the lower of the physical. In short, the 3 great planes may be regarded as 3 great groups of degrees of life manifestation. While the purpose of this little book do not allow us to enter into an extended discussion, Franz does, or explanation of the subject of these different planes, still we think it might be well we give a general description of some of it. It helps, doesn't it? At the beginning, we may as well consider the question so often asked by the neophyte who desires to be informed regarding the meaning of the word plane. And let's all be honest, we all, in some degree or manner, are neophytes. But we're going to graduate, which term has been freely used, as we know, in a lot of different areas, and very poorly explained in many recent works upon the subject of occultism. Yeah. Now, let me tell you something. There was a person who wrote and said, "This is nonsense. I'm out of here." And I thought, well, and I said, that's exactly right. I mean, there was a lot of times that in studying the scriptures that I walked away going, what? So, yeah, it does sound like nonsense. And all the great teachers have said this. It's why they teach in parables. Anyway, so occultism, let's get that, is not a negative word. It's just a label. That's all it is. The subject of knowledge, hidden knowledge, sacred knowledge, whatever. The question is generally about as follows. Is a plane a place having dimensions, or is it merely a condition or state? There's a good one. And the answer is no, not a place, nor ordinary dimension of space, and yet more than a state or condition. It may be considered as a state or condition, and yet the state or condition is a degree of dimension in a scale subject to measurement. Somewhat paradoxical, is it not? But let us examine the matter a little closer. A dimension, as you know, is a measure in a straight line relating to measure. The ordinary dimensions of space are, come on, folks, length, breadth, and height. Or perhaps length, breadth, height, thickness, or circumference. But there is another dimension of created things or measure in a straight line known to occultists and to scientists as well, although the latter have not as yet applied the term dimension to it. And this new dimension, which, by the way, is much speculated about, the fourth dimension, is the standard used in determining the degrees or planes. So it can be measured. Yeah. The fourth dimension may be called the dimension of vibration. It is a fact well known to modern science as well as to the Hermeticists, who have embodied the truth in their third Hermetic principle that everything is in motion, everything vibrates, nothing is at rest. From the highest manifestation to the lowest, everything and all things vibrate. Not only do they vibrate at different rates of motion, but as in different directions and in different manner. The degrees of the rate of vibrations constitute the degrees of measurement on the scale of vibrations. In other words, the degrees of the fourth dimension. These degrees form what occultists called planes. The higher the degree of rate of vibration, the higher the plane, and the higher the manifestation of life occupying that plane. So that while a plane is not a place, nor yet a state or condition, yet it possesses qualities common to both. We shall have more to say regarding the subject of the scale of vibrations in our next lessons, in which we shall consider the Hermetic principle of vibration. You will kindly remember, however, that the three great planes are not actual divisions of the phenomenon of the universe, but merely arbitrary terms used by the Hermeticists in order to aid in the thought and study of various degrees and forms of universal activity and life. The atom of matter, the unit of force, the mind of man, and the being of the archangel are all but degrees in one scale, and all fundamentally the same. The difference between solely a matter of degree and a rate of vibration are all creations of the all, and have their existence solely within the infinite mind of the all. The Hermeticists subdivide each of the three great planes into 7 minor planes, and each of these latter are also subdivided into 7 subplanes, all divisions being more or less arbitrary, shading into each other and adopted merely for convenience of scientific study and thought. The great physical plane and its 7 minor planes is that division of the phenomenon of the universe which includes all that relates to physics or material things, forces, and manifestations. It includes all forms of that which we call matter, and all forms of that which we call energy or force. But you must remember that the Hermetic philosophy does not recognize matter as a thing in itself, or as having a separate existence even in the mind of the all. The teachings are that matter is but a form of energy. That is, energy at a low rate of vibrations of a certain kind. And accordingly, the Hermeticists classify matter under the head of energy and give it 3 of the 7 minor planes of great physical plane. These 7 minor physical planes are as follows. 1, the plane of matter, A. 2, the plane of matter, B. 3, the plane of matter, C. 4, the plane of ethereal substances. 5, the plane of energy, A. 6, the plane of energy, B. And 7, the plane of energy, C. Now, I know it sounds complicated, but it's really not. The plane of matter, A, comprises the forms of matter in its forms of solids, liquid, and gases, as generally recognized by the textbooks on physics. The plane of matter, B, comprises certain higher and more subtle forms of matter, of the existence of which modern science is but now recognizing, the phenomenon of radiant matter, and in its phase of radium, belonging to the lower subdivision of this minor plane. The plane of matter, C, comprises forms of the most subtle and tenuous matter, the existence of which is not suspected by ordinary scientists. The plane of the ethereal substance comprises that which science speaks of as the ether, a substance of extreme tenuity and elasticity, pervading all universal space and acting as a medium for the transmission of waves of energy. You know, that's what Claudia spoke about yesterday, waves, such as light, heat, electricity. You see, that's why I love doing the show with her, the physicist and philosopher. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is what ties the bridge of both those disciplines. It's right there. This ethereal substance forms a connecting link between matter, so-called, and energy, and partakes of the nature of each. The Hermetic teaching, however, instruct that this plane has 7 subdivisions, as have all the minor planes, and that, in fact, there are 7 ethers instead of but 1. How many of you did not know that? I have to admit, I didn't know this. But yet, it makes perfect sense, folks. 7 different ethers. That's worth the hour right there. Next, above the plane of the ethereal substance comes the plane of energy A, which comprises the ordinary forms of energy known to science. Its 7 subplanes being, respectively, heat, light, magnetism, electricity, and attraction, including gravitation, cohesion, and chemical affinity. the several other forms of energy indicated by scientific experiments, but not as yet named or classified. Now, we know we can add plasma to this. Now, I don't know if they didn't know what plasma was, 10,000, whenever this was written, but we know today there is yet a new element. And I've been thinking about this more and more. Are we going to have to maybe reconsider adding potentially a seventh element? I don't know. It's just a thought. Greater minds than mine will figure that one out. The plane of energy B comprises 7 subplanes of higher forms of energy, not as yet discovered by science, but what have been called nature's finer forces, and which are called into operation in manifestations of certain forms of mental phenomena, and by which such phenomena becomes possible. The plane of energy C comprises 7 subplanes of energy so highly organized that it bears many of the characteristics of life, but which is not recognized by the minds of men on the ordinary plane of development, being available for the use on beings of the spiritual plane alone. Such energy is unthinkable to ordinary man and may be considered almost as divine power. The beings employing the same are as gods compared even to the highest human types known to us. The great mental plane comprises those forms of living things known to us in ordinary life, as well as certain other forms not so well known except to the occultists. The classification of the 7 minor mental planes is more or less satisfactory and arbitrary, unless accompanied by elaborate explanations which are foreign to the purpose of this particular work. But we may as well mention them. They are as follows: the plane of mineral mind, 2, the plane of elemental mind, A, 3, the plane of planet mind, 4, the plane of elemental mind, B, 5, the plane of animal mind, 6, the plane of elemental mind, C, and 7, the plane of human mind. The plane of mineral mind comprises the states or conditions of the units or entities or group and combinations of the same, which animate the forms known to us as minerals, chemicals. They're all alive, folks. Just because something seems to be inanimate does not mean that it is not alive. It's just you have to expand your definition of life. Anyway, these entities must not be confounded with the molecules, atoms, and corpuscles themselves, the latter being merely the material bodies or forms of these entities. Just as a man's body is but his material form and not himself, these entities may be called souls in one sense, and are living beings of a low level of development, life, and mind, just a little more than the units of living energy, which comprises the higher subdivisions of the highest physical plane. The average mind does not generally attribute the possession of mind, soul, or life to the mineral kingdom, but all occultists recognize the existence of the same, and modern science is rapidly moving forward to the point of view of the Hermetic in this respect. The molecules, atoms, and corpuscles have their loves and hates, likes and dislikes, attractions and repulsions, affinities and non-affinities. And some of the more daring of the modern scientific minds have expressed the opinion that the desire and will, emotions, and feelings of the atoms differ only in degree from those of men. We have no time or space to argue this matter here. All occultists know it to be fact, and others are referred to some of the more recent scientific works for outside corroboration. There are the usual 7 subdivisions of this plane. The plane of elemental mind A comprises the state or condition and degree of mental and vital development of a class of entities unknown to the average man, but recognized again to occultists. They are invisible to the ordinary senses of man, but nevertheless exist and play their part of the drama of the universe. Their degree of intelligence is between that of the mineral and chemical entities on the one hand, and of the entities of the plant kingdom on the other. There are 7 subdivisions to this plane also. The plane of plant mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprise the states or conditions of the entities comprising the kingdoms of the plant world, and the vital mental phenomenon of which is fairly well understood by the average intelligent person. Many new and interesting scientific works regarding mind and life in plants having been published during the last decade. Plants have life, mind, and souls, as well as have the animals, man, and Superman. The plane of elemental B, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states and conditions of a higher form of elemental or unseen entities, playing their part in the general work of the universe, the mind and life of which form a part of the scale between the plane of plant mind and the plane of animal mind, the entities partaking of the nature of both. The plane of the animal mind, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises the states and conditions of the entities, beings, or souls animating the animal forms of life familiar to us all. It is not necessary to go into details regarding this kingdom or plane of life, for the animal world is as familiar to us as our own. The plane of elemental mind C, in its 7 subdivisions, comprises those entities or beings, invisible as are all such elemental forms which partake of the nature of both animal and human life, in a degree and in a certain combinations. The highest form are semi-human in intelligence. Now, I just want to enter here a point. We're going to continue to learn, folks, the entities you have created. They're there around you. Now, they can also be dispersed, but unless it has taken the steps to disperse them by the same steps that brought them into existence, it's going to be a problem. The plane of human mind, in its 7 subdivision, comprises those manifestations of life and mentality which are common to man in his various grades, degrees, and divisions. In this connection, we wish to point out the fact that the average man of today occupies but the 4th subdivision of the plane of human mind. And only the most intelligent have crossed the borders of the 5th subdivision. It has taken the race millions of years to reach this stage, and it will take many more years for the race to move on to the 6th and 7th subdivisions and beyond. But remember that there have been races before us which have passed through these degrees and then on to higher planes. Our own race is the 5th, with stragglers from the 4th, which has set foot upon the path. And then there are a few advanced souls of our own race who have outstripped the masses and who have passed on to the 6th and 7th subdivision, and some few beings still further on. The man of the sixth subdivision will be the Superman. He of the seventh will be the Overman. In our consideration of the seven minor mental planes, we have merely referred to the three elemental planes in a general way. We do not wish to go into this subject in detail in this work, for it does not belong to this part of the general philosophy and teachings. But we may say this much. In order to give you a little clear idea of the relations of these planes to the more familiar ones, the elemental planes bear the same relation to the planes of mineral, plant, animal, and human mentality in life, that the black keys on the piano do the white keys. The white keys are sufficient to produce music, but there are certain scales and melodies and harmonies in which the black keys play their part and in which their presence is necessary. They are also necessary in connecting links of soul condition, entity states, etc., between the several other planes, certain forms of development being attained therein. This last fact giving to the reader who can read between the lines a new light upon the process of evolution and a new key to the secret door of the leaps of life between kingdom and kingdom. The great kingdoms of elementals are fully recognized by all occultists, and the esoteric writings are full of mentions of them. The readers of Buller's Sanonai and similar tales will recognize the entities inhabiting these planes of life. All right, we're going to stop right there because I tell you, that alone should begin to really pull this in together. It does for me. I mean, once I read this, it's like, and a lot of you are getting the same thing. Many of you have had this book and studied it. I know you've written me. And it's like they're suddenly recharging. I actually had one person say, I read this 10 years ago, put it back on the bookshelf. Heard you started teaching, and she wrote how she got here, but she said, I pulled it back off the shelf and it's come alive again. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It is to become alive. It's so cool. Well, folks, pretty cool day. I tell you, I think that answers are being gotten. Continue to do the meditation exercises. Now that you know how to begin to bring things to pass in your life, I'm going to tell you how I do it. Look on that one thing that you're needing. If your life very well depends on it, you'll take the time and discipline yourself because this works. There's no, how shall we say, there's no segregation here. This is open to everyone. The sad thing is that most of us realize is that so few will actually do it. But we will. We shall. All righty, folks. Y'all are the best. Thank you so much. Light and love to all of you. Listen, we're on the path together. As my shirt says, someone wants to say they want to see it. I know the voices in my head aren't real, but man, they give me some good ideas. I'll tell you. Hello there, Karen. How are you, my friend? Good to see you. So good to see all of you. I've just seen so many great. This is a community. It really is. It'd be very cool if we could actually build our own community. But you know what they say. It is this the way it's supposed to be, and I'll take that and savor it like I do chocolate. Jaguar Spirit, you're most welcome. Jerry, you're very top of the list. Thank you all. Lit T, thank you. Michelle, thank you as well. All of you. We're going to learn together. I'll be obedient to this. There's some in here now. In a year from now, you're going to be considered amongst our peers. You'll be taking the step for masters. And just as in college, you'll have the same effect around your environment. People are going to be looking to you for answers, and you're going to know. You're going to have a wisdom that will surpass the need to actually explain. It'll be one that is well established, and we're going to change lives. Now, the rest of the archons may not like it, but what do they know? That's what I say, So, all right, I've kept everyone here much longer than, well, actually, I haven't, just 23 seconds. Hey, have a great day. See you tomorrow, and may the rest of your day be an awakening and enlightening. And I hope what we've shared here today plays a small role in making your day better. People, love yourselves, and then you can love your neighbor. And you know what I found as well? Until a person truly can learn to love themselves, how can you ever love God? All right, I'll leave that with you. See you tomorrow. Be good, folks. Bye-bye.